How you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Why don't you, well, first of all, welcome to our brand new podcast studio.
It's beautiful.
You're one of only a few things. You've been in the headquarters now, the new headquarters. And do me a favor before we get started, introduce yourself.
I'm Bill Winsininski, the CEO of CWC Consulting in Chicago.
Bill Winsininski. Do you just go by B-Dub? Is that
B-Dub, yeah.
Okay,
it's a lot
B-Dub.
easier. Yeah.
That's what we call him, right? And Mike, you want to introduce yourself?
Mike Sarraille, been on the podcast before. Chief Talent Officer to my boss over here, Kirk Offel.
But what you don't see is behind Mike is the new podcast that Mike and I are getting ready to start rolling out.
Yeah, what's that about?
What is that all about, Mikey?
It is. First off, the logo is beautiful. So 99s, it is a podcast about the convergence of power, data centers, technology, labor, but most importantly, how those converge and the influence or impact it has on national security. As we all know, the race for dominance for AI between us and China. And so, we're going to have drone company CEOs on. We're going to have tech CEOs, of course, nuclear scientists with regards to nuclear is the way ahead, geopolitical analysts. It's going to be...
We'll have generals on. We'll have people talking about
serious
data centers from a national security perspective.
A more serious podcast. So we're actually going to put on collared shirts and
we'll
blazers.
Look professional for that one.
Yes.
We won't be wearing shorts and flip-flops like we are downstream of our black T-shirts today.
I chose this. This is a uniform of the podcast. So,
well, listen, a lot of people, I'd like to scratch the paint with you because we're going to talk about one of the most exciting things I think that's happening right now in this space is this massive shift where everyone's looking for talent, right? And what you and I were talking about is we were blue collar in the military. Mike was blue collar in the military. He was former enlisted Marine before he was Navy. And that means that, we have MOSs or NECs or EIIOs that tell us you're validated, you're accredited. Like I went to school for that rate and it taught me this much, which allowed me to go to a submarine and do these things. But I had I didn't really learn shit in school. What I learned was how to be certified and validated to where I was packaged up well enough to where now they could put me on a ship where I had a year to earn a warfare pen, basically, right? So you learn just enough about the language. I mean, even in the SEAL community, I'm sure that as much as they train you, you don't really learn your job until you get to the team, right? No?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're not completely useless, but you're still useless when you show up to a SEAL team.
Body. Yeah. And your former, you're former Navy, you're one of us. Yep. You came through this ranks. Yep. And let's start with you and dovetail it back into how you and I reconnected and how you helped us create a platform for Mike. And Mike is going to go high, wide, and deep into what Overwatch University is. But it comes back to that certification, verification platform. Yep. The military doesn't, they train us in various schools and then they deploy us into units to really begin to learn. And it's no different than how we're going to be teaching data center professionals as this industry evolves. So first of all, if you're listening to this podcast, thanks for listening to the Data Center Revolution. I ask that you subscribe. The second part is, why don't you roll up your sleeves, take a listen to this and what Bill and what Mike are going to talk about, because it may be something for you to share with your nephew or your niece or your neighbor or even your kids who aren't sure what they want to do. Let's talk about how the military creates a platform to immerse people in an environment to go bring value to the nation and national security and defense.
Do you mind if I weigh in? Are you not going to call him out on, he said he was on a ship, which is a disgrace to us that were actually on ships and worked for a living? You were on a sub.
Lord. It's a real, so I had
I was questioning that. I was like,
look, man, they make a lot of books about the SEALs and stuff, but the submariners we're not nearly as cool, but we're in our own world, we're pretty cool, right?
I mean, your movies do, the movies about subs hit better than special operations movies.
Well, look,
Hunt for Red October, yeah.
Why do you think I even joined the submarine community? So anyways.
There's no movies about boats and mates, that's for sure.
Well, what were you at first? So back us up. Where are you from? You're not from, I know you're Chicago B-Dub, and everyone that's listening knows you as Bill Winsininski B-Dub. Yep. But you, surprisingly, you're not from Chicago, although now you're very acclimated.
I've lived there longest. Born in Silicon Valley, San Jose. Moved to Southern California when I was 5, Huntington Beach area, like Fountain Valley.
Was your father military? I mean,
he was.
Okay.
Yeah. So my dad was Navy. Both my brothers were Navy, and I'm Navy. So he was Airedale. So he was at Moffett Field in Bay Area. That's where he met my mom. He's from Philly, and met my mom out there, and had a family, and that's where I was born. And then he worked for General Motors out of the Navy, the NUMMI plant, which is now the Tesla plant. they built cars there for GM for many years, and then Toyota came in, they did this joint venture, and then Tesla took it over. And then they moved down south to Southgate, California. And then my dad worked out of that plant, godforsaken plant. It's been there, 100 years, just a rough place. And then he got transferred to Missouri. So I went from Huntington Beach as a sophomore in high school to a junior outside of St. Louis in a town called St. Charles.
Wow.
It was full on footloose. But now St. Charles is like the happening place in St. Louis. But yeah. And then went back to, then joined the Navy out of there. And then spent 4.5 years in the Navy.
What did you do?
I was a search and rescue swimmer. So
nice.
Yeah, I was a boatswain mate first, and then a SAR swimmer. And I was on the 6th Fleet flagship, home ported in Gaeta, Italy, which was unbelievable duty. So my parents were going through crazy stuff. Life was weird, and the recruiter says, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "Well, here's the Earth. I want to be like
on the other side of it."
Yeah, send me there. So all I want to do is be in the water. You know what I mean? So let's get in the water and save people. And so he said, boatswain mate's a good rate. It might be a little tough because a lot of the deck, that's where you're in the deck, you're doing anchoring and mooring and all that stuff. But that really resonated with me because you're outside and you're working with a team of like 70 guys. And then I did my search and rescue stuff with the Admiral. So the Admiral was on our ship, 6th Fleet Admiral. And so we would go to real tough places like Nice and Saint-Tropez and Haifa, Israel, and all those places. And then, when the war broke out, we got really heavy into it. We steamed down to Sardinia so we can get the Super Bowl feed, that kind of stuff. But
that's where we pulled in.
Yeah, but no, then it got real because we would go all over the place with the Admiral, and wherever he would go, I would go. Yeah. And so I got a chance to rub elbows with some real heavy brass, some real incredible people.
Didn't you have a Bush on your boat once too? Like
we did. So the Malta Summit. So it was in '89, the Malta Summit was on our ship. So Gorbachev and George Bush were on the ship, and we were home. We were in Malta Harbor, and it was a crazy storm. We were doing 10-degree rolls and 15,
at the pier
at Anchorage. Oh. So our swing circle was crazy. So a swing circle is when the ship, the anchor chain is what holds you fast, not the anchor. And so we were doing swing circles. And if you run aground with the President of the United States on board your ship, your career is toast, right?
Is that frowned
upon? As a CO, right? So we were doing steaming to anchorage, meaning so we would step on the gas a little bit and drop more chain, but we'd have to hit this pelican hook and, drop chain like crazy. But the front of the ship, the forecastle, was secured for 48 hours. So we had teams up on the forecastle manning it for 48 hours. And we had a chief who we called Chief Goddammit. He's like 35 years in the Navy, still a chief, kind of guy. He was watching us smoking cigarettes and hanging out, and we're just ready for the call. And we see this guy walking on the forecastle about 2 a.m. with a bunch of people, and Chief Goddammit just lays into him. Secret Service guy shines a light. It's George Bush, and he's like, "That's okay." So got a chance to meet George Bush. He fished off the fantail. The seals were swimming under our boat for, 24 hours a day. They put a fish on his hook and said, "Welcome to the Med."
Is that what they did?
It's crazy. Yeah. And so it was nuts. And the Russian Slava was at the entrance to the port. So the Slava, ironically enough, was the ship that they bombed, Ukraine bombed at the beginning of the Ukraine conflict. Yeah. So it's like, whoa, it's kind of wild how it all comes full circle. But here I was, 19 years old, getting a ship ready to accept the President of the United States.
How cool is that?
Walking into the wardroom or walking into the pilot room and bumping into James Baker, that kind of thing. "Excuse me, sir." And then seeing Secret Service guys who couldn't get relieved. They were carrying around bags of vomit because they were just we were doing 10 at Anchorage. So it was pretty
tough.
It was good duty, though, because we were in Gaeta, Italy, which is south of Rome, north of Naples. It was a NATO fuel pier, so we weren't in Norfolk, Virginia, or anything like that. And I had an apartment in town, and I'm a soccer guy. I love soccer, so I got to see Maradona play in Naples and go to Rome and see games.
You had the worst enlistment, it sounds like.
It was awesome. It was really cool.
But when you got out, what did you do?
I went to college. Yeah, okay. So I went. 1 week I was in the Navy, and next week I was at Berkeley. So I went to Cal, and I think the reason they accepted me because I was in the Navy, studied English literature, because I was into that and wanted to coach soccer and be a teacher. And right around that time, the .com boom was jamming.
Sure.
You know, Silicon Valley was jamming. I got out of school and needed a job, so I worked in advertising, selling ad space for Hewlett-Packard. Hewlett-Packard was our customer.
I've heard of them.
And so Information Week magazine and tech computing and Tele.com magazine. So Information Week magazine was our magazine. And that thing was like 2 inches thick back in the day. There was, the internet was a baby. And so internet ads weren't a thing. So we were all selling ads, selling trade shows, selling, added value and round tables and discussions and stuff like that before.
What year is this about? Do you remember?
It was 95, 94.
So prior to the .com bust. Yep.
So, so I started with Information Week magazine. I started with advertising agency. Information Week magazine called on us, and the guy was like, dude, you need to come to this side of the table because this is more fun.
The industry was emerging.
We go out in town. We meet with these new companies, the .com companies, and so I interviewed at Information Magazine and got the job. And then my territory was Silicon Valley in 95, 96. We had a T&E budget of $75,000 a month. Oof. And if we weren't spending it, they would say, you got to spend it. Because Pets.com, Juniper's, all these companies, Salesforce.
Was fighting for airtime.
Totally.
Yeah.
But at the time, everyone was talking about distributed computing, away from mainframes. Like the HP Pro Curve was the distributed computing, like ingratiating themselves with the IT division instead of moving away from facilities and talking about empowering IT to be able to manage their own data center instead of these mainframes and all the things that were going on then. And I loved it, worked there, met my wife at a bar. I was 2 weeks in and finding myself. I said I was going to go a year, and I met my wife, and that was it. And she's a Chicago girl. And
you guys ended back in Chicago? That's how you got back to Chicago?
That's right, yeah.
No kidding. But, I mean, how did you go from that to, you're pretty deeply immersed. I know you worked for one of the largest operators in the world at some point, right? So how did you get from that into walk me through? Paint broad stroke if you want to.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So my wife's father had a company called Imprint Enterprises in Aurora, still does. And they had an IT division selling they did barcoding and labeling, industrial marking, but they also had an IT division that was like a CDW distributor kind of.
Sure.
And so they sold servers, racks, hardware for IT. But we put our heads together and started to develop a data center division where we sold racks and UPSs because the UPSs were already part of the systems for the applications for the barcoding and labeling and stuff. But we got in early with APC, which became Schneider Electric. Yeah. And so at that time, APC was trying to really move to empower the IT folks to be able to design and build their own in-house enterprise data center.
Right? In a modular way. They were the first, I think.
100%. And so we were going there selling, power strips or PDU strips or racks, and they would say, hey, do you do fire suppression? Do you do structured cabling? Do you do flooring? Yes, we do. Yeah. And we would go, me and my father-in-law went and hired electricians and mechanical engineers to be able to turnkey these things.
What year is this about? Is this 2000-ish?
2002, 3, 4.
Retail colo was still massive. Managed services.
Retail colo hadn't even started hardly. It was like enterprise customers. So we would go into banks, hospitals.
Were you doing managed services, though, is what I'm saying? Were you guys hosting?
After that, yes. So after that, we would when people started moving to third-party data centers, like Digital and Lattices in the Chicagoland area, Equinix and those types, CoreSite. As they were moving that way, we would broker that. So we would say, okay, option A would be to retrofit, put Band-Aids on your existing data center and all that. Option B would be to, completely change and, redo your data center. And option C would be, which we're recommending, is the densities outpaced your ability to do it, right? You're not data center guys. You're insurance guys that have just landed into the data center dealing with infrastructure. Now, I would always say that there's nothing new in business that doesn't involve technology. Back then, technology was a line item that people cut. along with marketing, you know what I mean?
Unnecessary.
And so they would not spend the money on it for them to grow, but if they got hacked or had downtime, that was a real painful moment for them. So I started to see there was that fulcrum where they started to think about, hey, maybe I should put my infrastructure in a place that's designed for it. And then I would tour them and demystify these places to them. And at the time, the channel around data centers wasn't real robust. The channel on the telecom side was pretty robust, but as far as brokering or, becoming an agent.
You became an early stage agent.
Right. And we would just drop ship our gear to the data center instead of drop shipping it to their location. Yeah. And that makes sense. Yeah. And then my father-in-law retired, and then I started work for the colos. So I got recruited to work for the colos. I worked for a company called Bike Grid.
Of course.
And the first one was 365 Main. So you might know Chris Dolan. Yeah, so
he'll speak at DCAC this year.
I worked for Chris Dolan. I would sell tube socks for that guy. He's like one of my mentors in life.
Sure.
Not just because he's a smart guy, but he's just a kind, just rad human being. He's and his partner Jamie McGrath. I don't know if you met him. Same.
No one's ever said a negative word about those guys, right? But they were 365. They were pioneers back in the day. I mean, they're pioneering stuff now. They're building the fifth. Like what they're doing today is the Manhattan Project of our generation.
Insane.
It's savage. Right?
It's savage.
So you worked for Dolan for a bit. Were you at 365 before they got acquired by Digital?
At 2.0.
Okay.
So when he sold the Digital, do you know that story?
No, let's hear it.
Oh my God. So he was building data centers and I don't know if he wants this out there, but he was building data centers.
Speak closer into the microphone.
He was building data centers for a company.
Yeah.
And he was an architect by trade, or is an architect by trade. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't.
He was building data centers. He had a blank check from this company. That company around 99, 98, or I forget when it was, went bankrupt. So he built that data center in 365 Main Street, San Francisco for a big number, right? He was able to buy that data center for a low number.
Pennies on the dollar. Yeah.
That data center sat empty for a long time in data center terms, year, two. Then it started to pick up because right around 2000, people were worried about the Y2K thing. They were still butthurt from the .com era. They were trying to kind of figure out where we're going with it. And
it was actually the .com bust was the end of the third industrial revolution and the beginning of the fourth. And if you look at it, every industrial revolution before that had a gap in between it.
Interesting. We
did not. We literally had a .com bust and immediately went right into the fourth industrial revolution. So it was a hangover that didn't have a lot of time to think about the past. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%.
I was getting out of the Navy in 2000, so all that shit was happening. I was watching that go down. I was like, this industry's kinetic. I'm going to want to be a part of this, right? So you were moving from 365 Main, and then where'd you go from there?
A company called Bike Grid.
Okay.
So they had a data center in so Chris left 365. That's why I left.
Yeah.
I would still be there today if he was there today, honestly. And so from 2.0, so Chris did well with the Digital. Digital was buying market share, right? Taking, and it's a great property right downtown San Francisco. And then he bought 17 of the data centers that were Equinix carve-outs from the old Switch and Data. Those are all edge data centers like 427 South Sal, Tampa, Portland, and I ran sales for all those. So we had a sales team selling retail colo out of 17 sites around the country.
Nice.
And then when Chris left, I went to work for Bike Grid. They did a sale leaseback in Chicago right around the corner from my wife's family's company that I actually put the air units in there, for God's sake. So that's what happens in Chicago. You tour a data center and you go, wait a minute, I think I put this flooring in, that kind of shit.
Sure.
But the sale leaseback, it was a CNA insurance data center, not CNA, CNA insurance data center, and then we did a sale leaseback and sold the balance out of it. And then we built a 400,000 square foot data center in downtown Cleveland, where basically right at Cleveland's renaissance, when they were getting into the food scene and they were changing things around and they're really going big on their one community stance, and Cleveland went like that. I mean, it was a rough place to be at that time. And then when we built that data center, we finished that data center, it was like, this is where you want to go. They've got these old buildings converted to rad hotels, and anyways, so I leased that out, helped lease that out completely. And then that got sold to H5, which is a data center company. And then from there, I got recruited to open up 2800 South Ashland for Chicago. And so I was in charge of
is that QTS? Or
yeah, QTS. Yeah. Built the team out in QTS. Back then, our mantra was roadmap to 300 million. Now what do they have, like a $30 billion valuation?
Yeah, those are gigs a year now.
Yeah,
$15 billion company.
Fantastic organization.
You were there early stage.
Great people. We were in a trailer. So we took a Chicago Sun-Times printing facility, and they did a masterful job of negotiating and recycling and repurposing that footprint of that building, but then building on that campus, building out on that campus. We were selling retail and wholesale at the time. That's what we called it. And at the time, QTS didn't really have a seat at the hyperscale table yet. It was like they were kind of behind the times. And then right around, I think when Chad got involved in the hyperscale, he became the head of the hyperscale division. And then the wholesale team, like Tag, who's now the CEO, and Gina Gardner and Michelle Forbes and those people, they became the hyperscale sellers. And once that happened, they went like gangbusters. And then
they're monsters.
Then when they, with Blackstone, that really kind of changed the game in a lot of ways too. But the culture, I helped build the sales team, some of whom are still there today. Built the channel, sales engineering team, and we had a blast going to market. We sold single racks up to 10 megawatts. So it was
and at some point you decided, because I met you right when you started your own shop.
Yeah.
So that would have been about 6 years ago?
It was exactly 6 years ago, February. Yeah.
Okay, so talk us through that, because the genesis behind going from something like a QT. I worked for an operator as well and left and started my own shop, and I think that veterans tend to have a higher risk-taking threshold than our civilian counterparts sometimes. So, I started a business at 44, 45, which is the perfect time when your kids are getting ready to graduate high school and go to college. And, yeah, why not? And then I timed it perfectly right before a global pandemic. You know what I'm saying? That would be awesome. Yeah. But like for you, when you started this thing, we met on a Chicago program. We had a shared client that brought us together, and immediately I was like, you should be over here with us. Right? Yeah. And you're like, bitch, I just started. You had nothing to do with it. But tell people about what you do now, because I know that you're the president of like an AFCOM chapter. Is that what it is? Yeah. And you're super involved in the industry, and you have a pretty wide aperture what you touch. And that's going to dovetail us back into like what Homeboy and you are working on right now, because what Mike is doing is exceptional to what we were only really doing it for our own company, for our own team.
Right.
And then now Mike is selling that product to our customers, and now we needed to standardize with something a little bit stronger. So tell us what you guys do. Tell whoever's listening what Bill Winsininski or B-Dub offers, and then let's dovetail that into EPI.
Right on.
Is that cool?
Yeah. So at QTS, as I got further and further up the food chain.
Did you have hair back then? Were you like I heard you had dreadlocks. Is that true?
I did. There was swooping.
Yes, I got you.
Put like beads in it.
I can see cornrows. I can see that. You did go to Berkeley, right?
If we took a hair, through the ages type tour, crazy.
Same with you. Did you have some of that?
I don't want to talk about this subject.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm not bald. I choose to shave my head.
I got you.
My wife.
These aren't the
tools. And I disagree on this.
We don't accept you in our community.
And in Islam, baldness is a sign of wisdom and strength.
Yeah, we're going to go with that.
So you were dumb and weak.
I'm going to use that.
I thought it meant flaccid. Is that not what it means? I could be totally off. I don't know what this is. Hey, but you went and you started your own shop, and that's admirable. It inspires people that want to go build things. Why do we go build things? So when we're working for something cool, you bring in, you were either building your dream or you're helping build someone else's dream, and at some point you realize, like, I could do something on my own. So what was that like?
As I was getting further and further up the food chain, I was getting further away from what I loved about the industry. Right, I loved helping people solve problems with infrastructure as a service.
Sure.
I fell in love with the data center, these buildings, and the people that run them.
Sure.
And I loved seeing someone like on the fence and really thriving in a data center and really kind of putting the pieces together. And that's what I did right out of when I started my own business. I was just basically brokering or being an agent for my customers to put them into data centers, co-location, and both hyperscale.
So you were a trusted advisor.
Advisor.
We don't know what we don't know. Hire B-Dub because he'll block and tackle. You knew where all the operators. You knew where the inventory was available, and you understood the differences between these operators.
100%.
And that's the value in that side of the agency, is that you have a very white glove touch to help people get small, medium, large, right?
100%. And we went out and we would tour these places, and that really kind of shined a light on the need for training too.
Yeah.
Because I knew that there was silos all over the place, and people were focused on one thing, and that's all the thing they saw.
Yeah.
And then through that,
would it start with you though, trying to go get trained yourself? Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, I put myself through it. Well, Joseba Calvo, who is with EPI, who runs that program, he and I used to sell modular data centers back when I was a distributor. Okay. So they would take containers back early days, and retrofit these containers and put data centers in them. And we did one in Iceland. We did one for the DoD. We did them all downstate Illinois. But they sold that to Schneider Electric, which became their modular data center component. That's where I met Joseba. And then he transitioned from that into EPI about 10 years ago. And so when he did that, I put everyone I knew, I put through those classes.
Yeah, we immediately were using your people from the day we started in Jump, even in Chicago when we were
long
doing
time ago. Yeah.
So CDCP, right? So why that one?
It's a pretty broad understanding. It's a 360-degree view of the data center, and it what I found was it helped people put the pieces together. Back when we first started, these data centers were these mystical buildings that were just squares.
And the language form was evolving still. The words didn't even exist yet.
100%.
Right? Yeah.
100%. And so I would put people through these, like CEOs through them, mechanical engineers, commercial real estate people, electrical engineers, kids.
Just for the purpose of understanding the language, like, have you benefited? You've been in the industry for a long enough time now to discover that it's not just a function of technology; it's really a language. Would you agree?
6 months. So I'm still in Spanish 101 of freshman year. I just finished the first semester, but EPI and what I would say is start with the DCFC, unless you're bold and you want to jump to the CDCP. But I'll put it to you this way: we just went to Switch, massive data center company, which is an understatement. We put the COO and about 10 of his people through the course. One of the individuals was a just beautiful lady, 13 years in data center sales. And she came out of that course and she's like, I've been in this for 13 years and I just learned so many things, to include acronyms that I've been using, to which I didn't know
what they mean. So that's what I'm saying is I think the hardest barrier to entry to the market is understanding the language and the lexicon. And I'm a big fan of introducing training to those people so that they could be a bigger part of those things. You know what I'm saying? So when you were going through this training, you started it just to teach yourself?
Yeah.
What made you pick that one over? I could name 4 groups right now in this industry. There's not a ton, and I've spent a lot of time with all of them. Yeah. Because Mike and I were trying to figure out who we standardize with on verification training. Yeah. This is a big philosophical thing, so we're going to unpackage what it is and how it does things, but why we're using it is very important. Sure. And why others that are listening should pay attention. Yeah. Right? Because there are multiple options. So where do you go to get certified and validated in this industry? And you found EPI to offer you the best one?
So Joseba introduced me to the concept. Okay. Right? And so hiring data center salespeople, there was no roadmap for that. Yeah. Right? And so do you hire a hired gun, someone who's done it before? Do you hire someone out of college and teach them? But the organizations that I worked at didn't really have a robust data center selling platform. You got a phone, you got a computer, you got a quota, and you got a ramp. And you see people on there, you look at their LinkedIn profile, every 8 months they got a new company lined up. Their ramp ended, right? It's not their fault, and so the return on investment, or the IRR that these investors are looking to get at, and these things are capitally intensive, and so it's stressful, right? You need to sell, and it's not it's a solution-based sell. It's not a widget, right? And so to train people how to see an opportunity, understand a compelling event. No one's going to take data center space if there's not a compelling event, right?
Like
on the retail side or the wholesale side in the early days. And so we went out and we would try to talk to these people and create a relationship with these people in an ecosystem of companies and understand what they do and understand their org chart, but then understand their business and what their challenges are. And then, they had a fire or they're moving locations. That's a compelling event. We're there. But that's not a month-long process. That's a 6-month-long process. But being able to identify those things and then give a tour of your data center and marry the two things together, that takes a full, broad spectrum of understanding that they need to put those pieces together themselves. You can't teach that. And that's kind of what the Navy did in a lot of ways, right? They gave us the tools, but you see it. People learn and they put the pieces together themselves. That's what I loved. I would go on, when I started my own company, I would go on tours of other data centers. And I said, I've got a customer that's looking for a megawatt. They're ready to go. They want a tour this week. Ooh, my sales engineer is not in town till next week. Can we push it back to next week? I'm like, bro, you're a sales dude. You don't know your product enough to give a high-level tour? Yeah. You have to have a sales engineer strapped to your hip to give a tour? What does that do to that culture of that team, right? So he's dependent. He can't fully be autonomous as a salesperson to really kind of drive it at the pace they're looking to drive. So I put my teams through it, not only to give them a little bounce in their step, but to add balance to their life, because they would do sales training, but it would be a PowerPoint, how to give a good PowerPoint, or how to some person who wasn't in our industry would tell us how to sell. You got to sell, you got to, manage your time, and our guys would just say, yeah, that's great. $200,000 later, they were off doing whatever they did before. Right. But if you empower them to take these classes on their own and then talk about it, and then we go, for instance, you sell an opportunity and you want to cut the NRCs, the non-recurring rates, right? Why does a salesperson want to cut those out? Because they have no idea what's involved behind the scenes. Right. But if they know what's involved behind the scenes and they walk the walk with the facility guy, they know what's involved with putting this shit together. And they start to put the pieces together, and now they're a professional. Now they're actually doing the work. And that's really resonated with my teams. They wanted to learn more after that. They wanted to keep going. And then CDCP was the first layer, for the base of the pyramid. And you can go up on that design build stack, but you can move to facility and operations side. You can go to the IT side. You can, and as it evolves, as our industry evolves, and this is one issue I have with big, companies like EPI, is like, our industry is moving so damn fast. A lot of times,
the curriculum doesn't keep up.
Curriculum needs to keep up, but it's what we got, And
so think about it. So let me pause and zoom out, because Mike, 6 month, he's the perfect person to run that program for us, because he's on the outside looking in. He has no limitation of construct. He doesn't know where it started. He doesn't know where it's going. He just knows what needs to happen. Yep. And for you, zoom out. If you're trying to train professionals how to be professional salespeople, they have to learn the language of what they're learning to sell, right? So one, they learn the art of the sell. Now they have to learn the science of what they're selling. And it's something that was really hard. And it's not hard because it was a widget it was a car. If it was a defined widget, we could just be like, these are the features. It's got full wheel. But this was a solution. Even to this day, it's still a solution. Mm-hmm. The product that you were selling then is not even close to what you're selling today. Right. And back then, the technology was iterating. It still does, but it was moving every month. I remember getting into the industry, and the only thing that we were selling was reliability. Remember that? It was like, how many nines do you got? And you'd have digital going head-to-head against, a Cyrus One on a distributed redundant model versus a block redundant model or something. How many nines can you get? And people gave a shit. And then finally someone woke up and like, I just need volume. Besides, I'm signing 100% SLA with 2-in uptime, so they're all the same product on a piece of paper. Right? So now we don't worry about that because they're all reliable. So
all became table stakes,
So now we're looking at what's the future proof? What's the scalability, the density capability? What type of adjacent space do I have for rights for roof? So we started looking at all these things. The NRCs became a big factor. Connectivity became a bigger factor. Volume and velocity became the ultimate factor. Today, the only product we sell is schedule. speed to market is the only product at these days, right? Would you agree?
100%.
But the thing is we're evolving. We're, 3 entrepreneurs. We all started our own businesses, and whatever drove us to do that is a whole nother podcast. But we do have the ability to take risk, and we do seek to learn and become better. You went out and you figured out, how do I understand not just how to be a better salesperson, but how to understand what the product is that we're selling.
Yeah.
And that's what EPI gave you. And I think that EPI is universal. It's not just a tool that can help a salesperson. It could help the builder, the person that's running a program or a project. It's probably good for, as we know, a lot of people on the operations side.
Yeah.
But there's 5 phases of a data center lifecycle, and there is something between the arbitrarily 9 certifications you get today for the EPI that covers at least some sort of altitude and airspeed within all those phases. Do you agree?
Yeah.
So, Mike, I had you guys staring down the barrel of DCD, IDCA, EIEIO. I mean, we were looking at everything because we were agnostic. We just wanted the best product to serve the need, right?
Yeah, I think you scared away at least 2 of those 5 on the initial VTC. He knows what he wants, and he's going to hold to the line. And that was, I think, one of my first VTCs with you inside house of Overwatch. I'm like, damn, you know how to deal with vendors.
No, you have to have a partner that wants to reinvent themselves.
Yes.
Do you agree?
It has to. This has to.
All the products sucked. I didn't like any of them, but I liked you. So remember I called you one day. I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
can you work with Mike
Yeah.
to get us what we need doesn't exist today.
Yeah.
And what we're going to need in 6 months from now hasn't even been thought of.
Yeah.
So will you work with us to build something? Because I knew I don't give a shit what this. I used to be the first one on this podcast and be like, the existential threat to this industry is power and people and supply chain. Now I'm like, it's not. There's only one threat to this industry: labor. Okay, go to power. What is the existential threat to power? Is it energy itself? I mean, what does it take to create power? It takes people. It takes humans that could go create a distributed natural gas generation plant. It takes people that know how to build infrastructure.
Yeah.
So the supply chain, what's the problem with the supply chain? Why is it a 60-week lead time on engines? Is because we don't have the materials to make engines, or do we not have enough trained people in a factory to build them fast enough? At the beginning and end of everything, every economy is based on an exchange of goods and services that's predicated on humans. So everything right now, we discovered early, which is when I was like, Mike, you got to come over here, because this industry does not lack genius, does not lack intelligence. It lacks leaders. It lacks courage. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of weak-ass people in large positions of influence that haven't seen the ball since kickoff. They were subject matter experts that had been put into positions of senior authority. They don't even know how to lead themselves, let alone leading others. Yeah. And we saw this pattern where I'm like Mike is a humble dude. He's the number 9 leadership guru in the world right now. And that person has the ability to come in and define a construct for how you can operate to lead yourself better. He has a podcast called The Everyday Warrior. I mean, his books were written on how do you become a better version of yourself. It starts with you. Why did this start for you? It started with you being like, look, I want to understand this, so you wouldn't self-impose the need to go do this on your own. Yeah. Your buddy guided you how to get there, just like you're my buddy that guided me.
Right. It's also too, I mean, it's people buy from who they know and like.
That's it. Relationships.
And like if Joseba was with another company, it'd probably be another company, But
we would have based it on.
I went deep in there. But just real quick with my company too, like we evolved outside of just brokering deals, right? So we work with land to commissioning. We help demystify this whole ecosystem of a data center. We work with landowners to help them, with site selection, understand power, understand what they have, outside of the normal due diligence that they can do with commercial real estate or something like that. But, what's happening is that, because of cap rates and interest rates or whatever, there's a whole bunch of commercial real estates on the industrial side who have land that they were going to convert into spec industrial, but since it's softened, now they have land that might have legs for a data center. So there's this fatigue in the industry of the hyperscalers, of the co-locations, and especially the utilities of all these phone calls that get fielded. Say, hey, would this be a good data center? Would this be good for a data center? Would this be good for a data center? What we try to do is we try to make that phone call less painful for those folks and really bring them a site. So when we pick up the phone and call a provider or a hyperscaler, they know that this site has has a roadmap to what they're looking for, whether it's a load letter or whatever, right?
That consulting is a premium right now in this industry. The ability to know that is, there's so, it's such a prevalent term. Like remember it started with cloud. Everyone knew the term. No one really knew what that meant. You know what I'm saying? But everybody, your grandmother was like, it's in the cloud, right? But no one really knew what that was.
Yeah.
We do. But there's other things that are like that right now. Demystifying, as you say, like we have to not humanize what these things are, but we have to actually help it. We have to package it with our own conversations, including this one today, to where people see the magnitude of opportunity that this industry has as emerging. I mean, I always tell people that what 2025 is for AI is what 1925 was for the automobile industry, which was not mainstream. I mean, we were building Model Ts until 27 because there wasn't a lot of saturation and competition yet, and we hadn't standardized on what a car is. It's a vehicle that does this, but what was the difference between that and a hatchback or a sedan or a truck or a minivan? I mean, do you understand how we evolved into the mainstream as an industry where we've productized everything that we have? And really, it's an oligopoly of economies anyways that come in, and the barriers to market are very heavy, just like the airline industry. There's not 1,000 car manufacturers, for example, and there's not 1,000 different types of cars. There's really classes of vehicles now, like there's classes of data centers. And what's cool about the automotive when we launched cars, do you think Henry Ford had thought about where we're going to put all the gas stations? And hey, by the way, I don't think that we have any schools that teach people how to be mechanics on these cars. Maybe the bike shops people will figure it out, right? But there was no store down the road where you go get more parts for your car if it didn't work. I mean, there was a sub-economy that was created, including a 40-hour work week, and then people that make parts for cars. I mean, there's a tire company right now that'll tell you which restaurant is the best one in the world, all from a marketing campaign. Michelin just wanted you to drive more, so they gave you the names of the restaurants.
Wait, those are related?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
So you're going to drive to that really good restaurant on those Michelin tires. Yeah.
And then you'll need more tires. But what I'm saying is we don't know that shit, but it's brilliant. But those are the things we're transforming shit. And here we are working amongst the Henry Fords of our generation. And the three of us are almost tasked with, actually, zoom out. You two are tasked with figuring out how we train the labor force. Because we have trades that are unionized with electricians and plumbers, but that's not what we're building with data center experts. The data center experts are like I went to submarine school. I didn't build the submarine, I operated it, and we need to find people that, we need to find a platform, a homogenous platform, transparent, predictable, reliable, that Mike can teach people how to lead themselves. Mm-hmm. And then once he teaches people how to lead themselves better, then he can teach them how to lead others. So that's the first half, and Mike will break it down. The second half is, now that they're that, let's make them subject matter experts. And we chose EPI, right? And we hope that EPI will scale and change and evolve and adapt with us, because the industry's demand is massive. You're not going to send your kid to college today. A college degree in 2 years from now will be as valuable as a taxi medallion, right, amongst an Uber generation. Because, and I say that with 3 kids in college. I got Alabama, the Citadel, and University of South Carolina. Nice. But I didn't send them there to go learn about data centers. I sent them there to learn about the construct of business and finance. That's what they're studying. That part of industry won't ever change. But this industry that we're in, the impact that it has on the communities we live in, the impact it has in society overall, and I think in a few years from now, the jobs it will create to build back the middle class will have a greater impact on humanity since powered flight. So we have to figure out how to train these people. When I say we, I mean, what are the two of you guys doing to get people to where we could train a workforce like a union? Like, if you want to be an electrician, you're going to go to the schools and become an apprentice, and then you're going to become a journeyman, and then you're going to become a master. We need something almost like that in this industry. Do you agree?
100%. Because
the jobs that this industry will offer people that don't require college degrees will not only, like I said, build back the middle class, but we'll provide them with jobs that allow them to have a home and have a family and afford to send their kids to school, and they can afford a quality of life without having to go into debt for $100,000 to go to college for 4 years, knowing that half the shit you're learning in college your freshman year is obsolete by the time you graduate anyway.
Look, I mean, this industry has been everything to me. It's a new job every day.
It is.
And I've met you, I've met Mike, I've met friends, people that I love and care about in this industry.
Some of my best friends are in this space, yeah.
And I tell people that all the time. When I say demystifying, it's like look, it's so many things within it, and getting people in. the certifications get people in quicker.
Yes.
You know, and so that's what I'm interested in, because that speed to market is everything. You know, and getting to that point so how powerful this is to me is like with what you're doing with Overwatch University and what EPI has to offer, the combination of those things need to happen. Because when I would give the classes, I would stay extra and give a theory on what we just learned and then walk people through what we learned. And teaming with Mike and his expertise on this is invaluable. I mean, it will really, the content is the content, but what you do with that content and how you apply it, and
well said.
It's
what Mike's done.
And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
The EPI certification is the EPI certification, but if it is a 2-day course and we end up at 1/3 day in completing the instructional part, we've layered on with even simply what is the data center value chain. And what I mean by that are who are the players in the space, from the GCs to the operators to the hyperscalers. Actually, we took the graphic. I don't know if Andy Davis created the graphic, but we use that one of here are the major players in the space.
Yeah.
So you know the ecosystem. And we still prep them for the course, and then they take it at the end of the second day, or if they have to take it online, they have to download the software and take the course. So finding ways to, as you say, now make it relevant to people, like the lady who was in sales. Mm-hmm. She appreciated the value chain. She's like, yep, I didn't realize they were involved in the data center space based off that graphic. And Gunny and Matt are walking through, this is what they provide, this is how they've gotten involved, which may be a recent development. But if you don't mind me stepping back, so I want to, you guys have been in this industry for a long time. I'm an FNG, and I don't need to say what that means on the podcast. You can figure it out. And if you can't, that's a you problem. So I'm a brand new SEAL that just showed up to a SEAL team and told to shut up and stay in my box. But the reason I joined this is, one, he approached me to purchase or acquire Talent Group, which is an executive search and leadership development firm, which still exists. Now it's Overwatch Talent Group. We just still refer to it as TWG.
Yeah.
But as I looked into, I was really assessing two things. Assessing Kirk. Come on. I mean, anyone you do business with, you're going to assess and say, is this someone I believe in? Is this somebody I can work in? And that answer, after spending time, was pretty quickly answered. But starting to look into the industry, I was that person that when you say the cloud, I'm like, yeah, it's stored somewhere. I don't know. Oh, it's a data center. Yeah. I did know what a data center was. Couldn't tell you beyond that. Yeah, I guess it just stores data. Well, that is the cloud. So as I was looking into the industry, I was intrigued, especially after what I was reading in the national security implications. That's just our backgrounds, and that's what would, holy crap, if we don't win this war against China, which comes down to power, labor, and volume of data centers, we're giving up a market advantage. And given AI is changing the world. It's going to change warfare. It already has. Look at Ukraine and Russia. Look at Israel and when
they talk about empires falling and people threaten like America will fall as one of the latest empires, it's only if we give up the power, the fight for power, because the power is the only way to maintain our lead in AI. And think about what we're going to unpackage on the 9/9s is China's commissioned 10 nuclear reactors every year for the last 3, with the exception of last year where they did 11. And I think that I read that they will build 100 coal power plants this year. We aren't building any of those things, right? So like AI is just dependent on massive aggregate volumes of energy and power. And if we don't figure out a way to solve for energy on this side, we lose the race, the advantage to China, and that is how empires fall. Does that make sense?
And I think that's what that's our intent here. It's a call to action to mainstream, to inform, and say, hey, we need to start moving. Because I'm not confident that we're moving as rapidly as we need to on small modular reactors, which I believe is the solution. Not the 10-mile islands, or I'm sorry, the 3-mile islands. It's the small modular reactors that can be rolled off a factory line and deployed in the hundreds, if not thousands, one day to power the United States and even put power back on the grid. Yeah. But eventually I called my old man. I said, hey, what do you think? And he said, and this was interesting, you've talked about it. He's like, Mike, join this company. Because this industry, every other industry is a parasite now to the data center industry, because it's healthcare, finance, tech, You name every other industry that now has a massive tech stack, which now is trying to implement AI as rapidly as possible, or you lose a competitive advantage. He says the data center industry is the host that's going to grow larger than all of them.
Well, as we say, our industry grows faster than every other industry because of the growth of every other industry.
The demand.
Look at the automobile industry. Yeah. Every car now is a high-performance compute machine. And it has more technology, 10 times more technology than the first. Like, I imagine there's cars that are more advanced than the space shuttle. You know, does that make sense? So, like, this industry, whatever they're doing in high tech or finance or manufacturing or retail or EI, their capabilities and limitations are predicated on their access to more technology. And their technology demands end up in one place. And we refer to those places as either data centers or AI factories. And there's a difference between data centers and AI factories. And I think Wade Vincent probably does the best job of describing those things. So I'll leave it to him, who's going to do it on stage at DCAC this year. But everything at the end of the day falls back into a data center. So why wouldn't you be at the bottom of where everybody's demands are? It's almost like the food supply. Like, some part we need wheat, some part we need dairy. There's things that you can't go. Everybody needs it at some capacity, but it all flows down to one farmer or one this. And for us, everybody needs data center capacity. The adoption rate of emerging technology, specifically driven because of the surge of demand of AI, has made it untenable for us. We've now discovered that we've reached limitations of how much power we could provide from the grid. 60 to 70% of the programs I'm engaged with are all behind the meter. Mm-hmm. So we're building islands now for data centers. And everything's going to this direction, and the only limitation of growth is
people.
And it's not recruiting. There's tons of people, 200,000 people leave the military every year. Even if we only got a fraction of that, that would still help. But this industry is 500,000 people short just in the United States alone. And more than half of our industry has been here for more than 20 years. That silver tsunami could happen in any day where those people just throw their sucker in that dirt and retire.
And a high possibility in the next 3 years, given the way the economy's going. I hate to do a plug, but this goes down to, so we by the time this is out, this will be released. It's the Overwatch Mission Critical Data Center Labor Intelligence Report. We'll produce these quarterly. One, Kirk has something called the Critical Vault, which is more high volume of what are the major players doing within the space, what are the implications, to include geopolitical concerns. So this Data Center Labor Intelligence Report really, one, does go global, very, very briefly, but then focuses heavily on the United States. And it paints a very bleak picture
of how many, there's, for every 100 jobs, there's 60 people that are today qualified for those jobs, as an example. That's the bleakness that he's talking about. We just simply don't have enough humans. And even if we did, we don't have enough that even know the language or the lexicon of data centers, which is why you created Overwatch University.
And that's where we're going. So, one, we're strong believers in you better know your industry. Yeah. And we are in the service of labor, predominantly to the data center build phase. So, this arms our salespeople, it arms our account managers, it arms our recruiters, and that's why we produce it. But then we're also going to share it with the public, and you'll see emails or go to the website. You put your email in. We have this. I think it's about 25 pages. We also put it into a short podcast for those who like Audible style stuff. But
like me, he's talking about me.
Hey, if you're on a run, I get it.
I'm looking at you.
I'm a traditional book guy. I never transition to audiobooks. I can't do it.
I do both at the same time.
I find I have to, go back.
That's this often how he reminds me how he's better than me all the time. I get used to it. I'm okay with this.
See that show? No, I read. Yeah.
Reads.
We've got something in about 2 days that Kirk will eat those words. So, with this, one, it also shows what some people are doing within innovation in the space, but. And again, I don't want. I'm still an outsider. I'm not a data center guy yet. I've got to earn my stripes. There's not all that much collaboration going on, and that's what's going to kill this industry.
Yeah.
Is that leaders aren't coming together and saying, "Hey, we've got a massive problem." Yeah. Even outside of the data center industry, I've seen estimates that we need 1.5 million more electricians by 2030, which does impact the data center because I'm sure a segment are required. Yeah. So. Overwatch University, we've got to, as a industry, make a concerted effort to take underqualified people, and when I say underqualified, maybe days on data center build sites or operations. But what we're doing with Overwatch University in partnership with EPI, as you said, gives them the lexicon. And what I think we need to move towards is, and yes, it's either suffer the pain up front or you're going to come to a screeching halt in the future, given the labor trends, is create apprenticeships, post things like DCFC, where they are, it's almost like, an apprentice, journeyman, master, where they are studying with, if it's a construction, project management individual, a senior one, put a junior one who just finished DCFC underneath them and let them study. Let them get their year or two under their belt to where they're a known commodity. And if the industry doesn't do that, they're going to be in a very, very bad place. But I think the difference with Overwatch University is, yes, now we've got 2 internal instructors that can give the DCFC and CDCP, and they do a good job. But we can layer the leadership, both self-leadership, team leadership, and organizational leadership on top of that through something we call the Evolved Leader Certificate Program, which has 4 levels. Each is about 3 to 5 days. But from your field employees to very junior, let's say associate directors, that's the ELCP 101. And it is robust. I mean, you're talking personal assessments, different personal assessments that increased in cost with each level and are a little more robust. There's pre-reading, there's the coursework, there's a capstone project. This thing, I mean, it is proven from data from SHRM, Forbes, Conference Board, Harvard Business Review, that curriculum-based training yields just infinitely better results than an informal training program. And that's on revenue, that's on retention, that's on engagement. So Overwatch University is innovative in the space in partnership with EPI, and we're just getting started. And we're looking for those partners. I mean, there are great programs out there like Nova, Northern Virginia Community College, which has a data center operations course, which is either 18 or 24 months. And we're going to partner with all of them.
That's huge.
Because I think TJ Ciccone did that. He started that,
yes.
I think
so. He's with Menlo Ventures now?
Yeah. That guy's, I spoke on a panel with him a few years ago. Very intelligent, very impressive mind, know. But this is his passion too, right? That's why he's creating something. He was doing it on an island by himself before all the rest of us figured out, like, shit, he's onto something. But that's, I mean, there's no single silver bullet in how to get to it. Like, what we're talking about here is EPI did that for you. I wanted you to talk about EPI because you did it. You went through the system and you found the value. You introduced it to all your teams. You introduced it to our teams the minute that we met. I've been getting my team certified since how long ago, right?
Yeah,
and it's been a drip. Some people want it. It's not for everybody. But now we're like, Mike was like, every employee that works for us will be certified in some capacity of data centers.
See, you've made it a cultural thing.
It is.
So this is what I love about Overwatch. It's the culture here. It's pervasive. When you walk through the door, you feel it. Not all companies have this. A lot don't. And so when you're stressed for, you finally get capital to run your business, or you're a data center, or you're a hyperscaler, or whatever. We've all been on projects where it's hair on fire the second you get on site.
Yeah.
So where in that
is training
miasma are you going to take 5 days to pull these people that you scraped and tried to find out of the mix? And that's been our industry for the past 20 years.
Together.
We've been reacting to what IT has been handing us. Like Ray Parpart, the University of Chicago guy, right? He runs the data center in a building that's 110 years old, and he's got these minds that are winning Nobel Prizes that get grants and get GPUs, shipped to his dock, and they go, hey, plug these in, bro, And so he's had to piecemeal this together and figure it out.
The whole industry is that still.
Yeah.
We're all going through an apprenticeship together. This industry is not mainstream. What makes an industry mainstream is simple: regulation, governance, and most importantly, ethics. Right? This industry doesn't have that shit. Dean and infrastructure masons are the only. I mean, Uptime was the first one to probably say, hey, let's self-impose some regulations on ourselves. Let's hold ourselves accountable before someone else does.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of became not a commodity, but you could pay for certain things. It seemed like it almost was like it lost certain things. And then, Dean created IM, and DCD was right there too. They're huge on training. I got a ton of respect for all those shops. It's just the reality is I'm not saying they were lazy, but during that time, they weren't willing to take the risk of creating an incubator where they could come into a classroom type of environment. And there was nobody that created the collective for it. Mike created Overwatch University for us because we were hiring 15 people a month. I could not afford to not make sure that they all standardize in how they were going to lead themselves.
Yeah.
And then after that, Mike is teaching them how to standardize and how we lead our teams at each altitude and airspeed. It's a core plus 4 leadership mentality that Mike has a bunch of cool shit. I mean, the way you talk to a director ain't the same you do to a vice president or a senior executive. So like he's going through these things, but once we were done learning how to have a transparent, predictable, reliable workforce for ourselves, the subject matter expertise was the only piece that was lacking. Now, where do you get that from? You know, and at some point, we get it from the person that we trust the most and someone that's used it. And your teams have used it. I mean, he has retired Gunny. I mean, this guy he could never have another name again. He could be like Prince or Cher. Does it make sense? Like he only has one name, Gunny, right? And he's the real deal. And then he has another guy that's a warrant officer. And those 2 guys, I mean, I think one guy on your team's getting like a PhD and stuff right now. Right?
Matt is getting a PhD in leadership and organizational management. And he's the VP of Overwatch University. But and I want to set something straight. One, I would love to say this was my vision. It was not. It was Kirk's. Just brought me in to build it. And we're going to build it, and we're going to iterate on it. Because you just said there's no silver bullet. And it's going to be through partnerships.
Yeah.
And in fact, what we want Overwatch University to become, and I don't think it'd be an ego hit whatsoever, is Data Center University. That if people say, hey, you need to change this to Data Center University.
Even like your clients, if they need nerds and they don't know shit about shit, you're like, it's a third party agnostic. I mean, we already are selling the product to our clients. Our clients are coming to us. We did it just for us because I'm like, shit, we have so many people that how do we standardize on who our people are? They're all over the place, and we're on some of the largest programs in the world, right? So I'm like, how do we know that like when you go to McDonald's in LA, how do you know it's the same as what you get in Florida or New York, you know? And standardizing is so hard. It's, you know, you standardizing is the third phase of a business, optimizing it is the fourth, and you try to maintain that standard as you optimize. And for us, Mike, we signed a lease on like you have 14,000 square foot of Class A that's being converted into Overwatch University to where it's for our team.
The building is larger.
Yeah.
It's 50,000 square feet. Yeah.
It's 50,000 because we're going to lay down all of our liquid cooled load banks and that are not on rent. You know, we need a place for those things. But
I was talking to them today. It's amazing. That's
Dougie's a savage. That guy, he's 10 steps ahead of me at all times. It seems like right now I can't keep up with him. But the training is everything begins and ends with the ability to staff a team. Even if you're in the military, how do you take a kid like me that didn't know? I've seen submarine movies. That's why I was interested, but I don't know anything about a boat. You know, so like you got to take me to some schools and you teach me how to be safe first, and then you teach me some technology, and even then, now I'm learning. Like even then, the fleet gives me about a year to go learn my job, and they don't do it. You're a non-useful body. You are you're treated proportion to the value you bring to the crew, which is from day one nothing, and you earn your way into that by learning. The learning was the only way to earn the respect and the trust and the confidence of those on the crew. And I think it's no different for us here. Do you agree?
So you bring up a good point. The Army has perfected this as well as the other services, because at times they've had to crank out 1 million soldiers to push forward and fight in Europe or Asia. So the Army created sort of 3 levels to their training process. It's one, institutional knowledge, and that's what Overwatch University is, and it's going to give you so much. It's going to be drinking through a fire hose, followed by on-the-job training. And then last is self-learning. Mm-hmm. So we follow a similar methodology of let's get them the basic language, get them the basic knowledge, get them on a site where the true education takes place, hopefully if they're under the right mentor. That's key.
Yep.
If they're under a good leader, that good leader is going to produce hopefully exceptional future disruptors of the industry. And then you can also tell by how much somebody's willing to pour into themselves. That's the cream that truly rises to the top. Those are self-educating. So we follow that 3-tier system. But it's, the tier 2 partnering, we're talking with Stack. Hey, we'll get veterans who still have time on their contract that are paid by Uncle Sam.
Oh yeah,
DoD Skills Bridge program. We'll give them the DCFC. You align them with a mentor who they shadow for 6 months, 4 months, 2 months, however left is on their contract. And then you got the option to hire them. You get the option to hire them or give them back to us, and we're going to go find them a position within the data center industry. I'll say this too. You brought it up earlier. DCFC or even CDCP through EPI is phenomenal. It does provide value to those who are actually building and been building for years. They still learn something. But for your human resources, for your operations, for your IT department, for your marketing department, and the list goes on. However many business units you have within your organization. Could you imagine an HR person who now understands to some degree the data center
it's the
industry?
same problem a sales guy had back in the day, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Your
you
analogy.
have to understand that.
Well, you make them more valuable as an employee too, because they can cross function, and so you see that in the Navy a lot, it's
cross rate.
You look, oh, hey, what's that guy doing? Oh, I'm going to do semaphore. I'm going to be a signalman. When you go in undesignated, these guys, they look around to see what's up. They find a mentor, they study, and then they become that rate. You see that a lot in the deck division and on a ship. But the collaboration, I think about this all the time, and it's hard to structure it, but the soft things that aren't talked about, the things about collaboration that you've dialed into beautifully as a professional with DCAC and some of the things you do. I have Escape the Cold Isle golf outing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And we put people together on purpose, and we put people together without rules because people can network. People can.
We don't build networks anymore. I say we just build relationships.
100%. And the thing that I trip on is seeing those things blossom. When I first started my first AFCOM meeting, I had my list of people I wanted to talk to. I want to talk to Michael Bourdonnais, Zonotherm, and Vertiv, and I want to talk to these different people, and I'm going to find them, and I'm going to tackle them around the ankles at the buffet line, and I'm going to give them my sales pitch while I'm in the buffet line. That's, I was a machine.
Yeah.
No one heard anything I was saying. And it wasn't until I just stayed in it and showed up and was a face at these things and collaborated and carried the gear in
consistently
and set up and showed up and spoke at different things where my name got out there as someone in the industry that's going to be there. I met Shay on our first day. We met on our first days of our business. We've stayed together. The people, I still talk to Rob Nash. I still talk to Jason Ferraro, who says hi, by the way.
Those guys have both been on our team multiple times.
And so it's that I really trip on, and that's kind of the soft things that I love about this industry. And if you have that structure that you're talking about, that structure, that gives people pace in their step. You see people evolve and blossom in this industry. Watching Shay from the very first day she got into the industry,
Sure.
to seeing her run around DCAC in Dublin, knowing everybody, putting people together, putting the pieces together. That's what happens in the data center space. I hired a telecom person out of telecom who sold, T1 lines, and now they're selling, data center space to the University of Chicago or ITT or some of these other companies, and so that's what I really love about what I do, and
you cover the whole spectrum, right? So, but walk me through, because I want to pivot into two things. I want to go just a little bit deeper on EPI. I want to go a little bit deeper into OU, right? Data Center University, what you want to change it to. My thing is, why EPI? How old are they? Zoom out. And for people that don't know, we've thrown around EPI, but we didn't really probably do them. You talk about the guy that got you into it, and it's a relationship-based game. Sure. I'm only talking EPI through you, right? So I don't think I've ever spoken to Yoseba, right? Maybe I've been on a call, but my thing is they've been around for a bit, right?
Since the 80s,
and that was important to us, right? Like 1983, is that when they started?
Yeah. So they are the world's leader in standardization and accreditation for data centers. They don't just do CDCP, the certification classes. They audit data centers, very similar to the old school tiering levels, but based on a rating level. So globally, that's very much in play still.
Yeah.
In the United States, it was, back in the day, you'd get RFPs that said, it had to be tier 3
or TIA.
Yeah. And if it wasn't, you check the box, you're done.
Yeah.
Then, but now it became concurrently maintainable, and it was table stakes, like you're saying. But in Europe and South America, Central America, all these places that are emerging, those stamped, certifications mean a lot.
A whole bunch more overseas.
Whole bunch more.
Because you have so many different cultures, so many different languages.
Standards and corruption and things of that nature too, yeah.
And Europe is the most regulated part of the world, right? So you're going to have a lot more. Okay, when you look at data centers, like Europe is great because we whip their ass in technology, right? And it's because regulation strangles innovation over in Europe, and people that live in Europe, they feel it. They're not happy with that. I mean, most of them are the ones that are building in Dubai or going all over the other world and building places. But let's just zoom out. If you take all the data centers on this earth, if you added up every data center outside the United States, it still would only be about 60% of what we have in the U.S. So because it was so much more bespoke over there in Europe, they needed people that had, like, prove that you've been on a data center, and a certification does that. That's all that they need, like some places.
Africa, Central America, South America, those countries, they're building like crazy in South America. And, there's all these factions, and they just want to make sure that these things are legit.
Yeah, it's the same product that they have in South America. They're building in Europe.
And that's what they started. So they adhere to the TIA 942 standard, the standard and benchmark. And they've been doing it for a long time. And a lot of these other players kind of followed their lead.
Which is funny. Yeah. When you first told me that, I was like, I've never heard of EPI.
Yeah.
But I've heard of the other groups that probably plagiarized from them.
100%, yeah. I'm not saying they did, but
you don't have to say that.
Yeah. He was just litigiously protecting himself there. But that was a big factor, as Overwatch EMEA was launching. The others don't have a presence globally. EPI is global. And that was a big factor in us choosing to partner with you.
Two of the largest hyperscalers in the world standardize on them.
Yeah.
Too,
right?
Edward Van Amazon and
Edward Van Lent's been there since the beginning. So he's been there since the 80s. So he's the same dude has been running that shop globally since the beginning. So that was important to me too.
What rocked my world was I liked them the most because they were like when we built DCAC, that was to build a platform for a voice for people that didn't have a voice. I spoke it. I'd go from the year again to DCD New York, and then gone to the Chicago one, then did the Dallas one, did the Phoenix one, then ended up in San Francisco. Did you ever do that circuit in the course of like 8 weeks?
Yeah,
it's a great circuit.
Yeah,
tons of I mean, it is one huge party, one conference after the other, and like
a high school reunion.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, listen, I used to hijack half those conferences and host my own parties. Right, so I have never missed an opportunity to have a great time in there. So I'm kind of, when we built DCAC, it's because there were people that were in the industry for 1 or 2 years that didn't have a platform or a voice. There were companies like ours that we just started our companies. You're not going to pay the $30,000 minimum or whatever it is to go to one of these other big conferences, and what am I going to get out of that, right? So a hangover, a stack of cards, but I didn't really gain anything. We created platforms to give voices to people. That's what this thing was for. That's what the conference that Dave runs is for. But when I came to you, I liked EPI because I didn't realize the magnitude of strength that they had. From the outside looking in, they were the smallest, right? So for me, I didn't know EPI, and I thought, hey, man, I'd rather go partner with a David than go partner with a Goliath, right? And I saw some of the other groups that have been more established that probably arrived after EPI. Their marketing campaigns perhaps are better. It doesn't necessarily mean they're better, but their omnipresence. Maybe they have the right guy that people like to party with more at that conference, and that's why they're getting more of those things, right? And I don't want to trivialize the other trading things, but they just weren't all that valuable at the beginning. People were like, cool, that's cute. Your parents are probably very proud that you have some letters behind your name now. That's amazing. Before, it didn't matter. Like, I don't have one of those accreditations, right? So I saw them as nice to have, not needed to have.
Yeah.
And I saw EPI as someone that, hey, man, we could help them. But turns out that they've been around for a bit. They don't need our help, and they're very established. But we just didn't want to partner with the bigger shops. When you told me how big they were and how much of an impact they've had, I was like, damn, I had no idea. So they're almost the best kept secret.
Outside of the United States. Yeah, in the United States. But
outside
the United States, they're a household name. But in the United States, they were getting overlooked.
We'll get there.
They need Overwatch to help, and that's another reason why I was thrilled about this and leaned in because, marketing in Europe is different. They read a lot of things and we don't. So,
we listen,
and so it's very, very content heavy.
Yeah,
and advertising and marketing here is different than there.
It's guerrilla warfare compared to them.
They need that.
We haven't even hit the universities yet.
Yeah.
Wait until we start hitting universities, whether it's the business school, the engineering school, you name it, IT.
Yeah.
Once you start getting those college kids, which is a brilliant, not only for EPI, but for the industry as a whole, is get a hold of them young while in college.
Yeah.
And if we can get into those universities for 2 days to teach the DCFC. And even with Switch, we were talking about this, about hosting we're going to call it a 2-week capstone for college students, allow people to submit applications, accept only 50. They get to be on a data center site where they're getting their certification, plus actually walking the floor, seeing the different business functions within the data center. Those are the type of things that will open the funnel from a labor perspective. And I know for a fact, once kids understand, oh, wait, there is ginormous scale to this industry. When I thought I wanted to go be an influencer, it's a joke. They'll step into it. Yeah. And so we've got to get innovative. We got to get a little, to your point of guerrilla marketing, we got to get a little aggressive as an industry to start pulling that labor.
Well, the thing that I love too is, I would love to highlight people's, like when you talk to people on your podcast and you talk about their history and what they've done in their life and how they've landed, Carrie Getz says it beautifully. Like if you're of age, you've fallen into this data center space, right?
They all went through the same apprenticeship together, she said. She's like, when we were here, we had no one to call.
No one.
Now people could call her. But before that, there was no Carries to call. You know what I'm saying?
So Michael Bourdonnais in Chicagoland, he's a man rep for Vertiv. He does he's on QTS on a lot of jobs. Back in the day, he was selling Liebert air units, which were the Kleenex of the data. They were the air units. They were everywhere. If you said air unit, you called it a Liebert. That's what you did. I was getting into the space, and I said, "I'll hold your bag." And he goes, "All right." And he had one of those heavy fucking bags with the batteries in it. I held his bag. Yeah. And he took me in every single data center in Chicagoland, every enterprise data center in Chicagoland, and to this day, I don't forget that because the guy didn't have to do that, and he saw something in me or whatever. But highlighting people's backgrounds. I'm just a punk rock kid from California that wanted to coach soccer, and I ended up in technology through whatever, and now I'm in the data center industry. And it's a great living, and I'm grateful for it. But the things that I got out of the industry transcend that financial gain. It's the friendships, it's the balance you're able to get, and it's the being able to see what's driving our economy and what's driving our world these days. There's nothing new in this world that doesn't touch what we do, and that's pretty exciting. And we haven't even talked about what's next, like quantum AI and that 5 nines or how many nines? Nine nines. If talk about some of that quantum stuff that's just insanity.
When I heard there was a few years ago DCAC, it was like Dean was on stage with Peter Gross and Kava, right? And Kava was like, "Yeah, quantum data center is 10,000 square feet, and it could hack anything, basically." I mean, I just remember almost vomiting, going, "Cool, we'll be going back to analog in certain elements of national security. That way, we can't be hacked by technology, right?"
There's 300 quantum engineers to R1 in China, that kind of thing. I mean, that was old numbers. It's probably way more now.
I think that what we're talking about here is we're a little bit all over the place. The people are listening, but we all started from somewhere in this industry. Yeah. None of us got into the industry. Not even you, man. I mean, like I think I saw a podcast on Rogan that you were on promoting your Talent War book, right? And I think I was like, man, that guy
is an idiot.
I know. I was like, man.
That reminds me. I'm on his.
You got to leave for Rogan?
Yeah, he's down the road, right?
Yeah. You're going to be out here next. So my thing is I just remember thinking, hey, there's a guy that has spent a career figuring out how to make stronger leaders. So we need to start with that because that's what the industry was starving for first. And then in the last 6 quarters, the pattern has just compounded over, man, we just need more humans. We need more humans. And now the credit or I think that people are looking at accreditations different today than they were a year ago. I know that I am. Every employee of Overwatch will be certified in data centers, and one of those opportunities that EPI offers. I think they're all going to start with DCF. Is that what it is?
DCFC. Yep.
Which is
like
data center.
People.
What is that?
Data center foundational course.
Certification. Okay. So that is a great place for everyone. And I mean, people that are listening, if you have teams and your people don't know the language, they could reach out to Mike and get saddled up in one of our classes, EPI will be there, and we're going to be the ones that work with EPI to force them to change. This industry has forced us to change. Look at, you're a better version of yourself today than you were when I met you, because this industry's demand of us requires us to be at our best at all times, right? So the industry is starving for talent. There's a lot of people that have it, and they don't know how to train them themselves. We're just trying to create a technology incubator for training future leaders and subject matter experts of data centers. Who better to do that than you? And it was originally an idea. When he says it was my idea, it was my idea to get our team trained so that I could go look at my customers and be like, I promise that you're going to get something that we could be reliable on. And that is a hard promise with human people. I mean, humans are more volatile than the energy that we put online to support data centers. The most violent, the most dangerous, the most critical element of building a data center are the human beings involved with it, right? So turns out they all think differently. They all have a different emotional range. What makes someone happy versus sad is different. And, they all have a different way of responding to pressure in this industry. Never before has this industry pushed or demanded more from their labor force. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%.
So today, I mean, David runs the conference, and he took it over 5 years ago. That guy has been trying to transform the industry in ways that has forced the other conferences to change the way they do things. But 1/3 of DCAC is on human performance, and we have Mike coming in for the third year, second?
Second.
All right, so Mike will come in and help people discover how to become a better version of themselves. Because you can't have a better team until you have better individuals. So we start at the individual, move to the ability for that individual to change the lives of others, and then once they're subject matter experts, unleashed. So the industry's changing how we're going to solve this problem for labor. We haven't solved it for how we supply, manufacturing talent. Maybe that'll be something that's adjacent to what we're doing. But I think that in 3 years from now, based on what you've read, there's a real possibility that I read a report that said 1 out of 7 jobs by 2030 will be focused only on the data center industry, and 3 out of those 7 will be focused in an adjacent industry that's only focuses to support ours. So if you're listening to this and you have kids, there's jobs that they may have in this industry in 2 years from now that haven't been invented yet. And EPI is going to have to work with groups like us to advance and evolve the way we train the workforce. Yep. I think the difference between EPI and the other ones were some of the other groups I just saw, they were just there to make money on a product. They weren't trying to make a difference to the workforce. I felt that EPI would be willing to roll up their sleeves and help transform and evolve the way that we train and equip a workforce. It's not just like, I don't give a shit about the numbers that most people have behind their face. Like I have this and this and this. But now I care more, right? So if I'm around someone and they have a CDCP, I'm like, cool, at least they understand what I'm talking about.
Right.
Versus if they don't have that before, it didn't matter, at some point. Now it matters a lot. So training matters, and partners matter. And the way that we create an incubator to teach matters. And knowing that they're coming in to be standardized on training for leadership. And I mean, Mike, I didn't give you a big chance. We'll do a podcast just on Overwatch University. But I mean, how are you planning on equipping and evolving with this EBI partnership that you have? And what are some of the things that maybe people that are listening to today realize that, people don't realize that when you create a business, and you know this because you're both entrepreneurs that have started a business, the first stage of every business is creating it. Sometimes that's the most fun, most volatile. You're taking the greatest risk. You don't even know if you're going to survive. Yeah. Once you realize, hey, man, we're going to survive, then you have to start stabilizing that business. And that's where violence comes, because you're releasing process and protocol and standards, and people that joined were like, man, this is fun. Why do we have all this shit now? You lose them. Right, but when you standardize on once you stabilize it, that's when you start seeing friction. When you standardize it that's when you see the greatest changes. Do you agree? When you get in the fourth is when you're optimizing what you have. Hey, this is what we have. We have a small, medium, and large. Let's just make it to where it's more consistent and better. And then the last phase is obviously scaling it. This industry is scaling. There is no collective that could bring together a workforce. The electricians themselves have a unionized structure of labor through an international brotherhood, and even they are struggling to staff electricians. How is our industry responding to it? There are Chris Crosby's of the world. There's very few CEOs that are really doing things to roll up their sleeves to figure out how to build a future workforce for this industry. That's part of their legacy, right? So Overwatch University, or whatever direction you take it in, just like David took DC-AC in a direction. I show up just like you do for the I may know who some of the speakers are, and then I don't know anything. Yeah. I show up just like you. I'm like, dude, this is pretty cool. It's awesome showing up and having no knowledge. Mike's doing that with OU. I have no idea. He doesn't read me on the news and sports. He knows, hey, man, there's a demand for talent. It starts with themselves, then it becomes subject matters. And you have to figure out a way to solve for that, not only for I'm one of your customers. I have unrealistic expectations. I'm going to want an amazing workforce, but our clients are going to want the same, right? And they're going to want to probably be able to send their people to your incubator to partner with the EPI stack. And EPI has been around for a long time. It's someone worth investing into understanding who they are. Yeah. And in addition to that, you've written books on leadership, so you've probably forgotten more about it at this stage than I know, but you're going to have to figure out how do people send teams to you, knowing that when they get those teams back, they're certified as strong leaders of character. I mean, no one does it better than the military of rewriting the constitution of a human being in 10 to 12 weeks in the military, but it's almost like a boot camp. You're sending people there, and they're like, first stage will be this, second stage that, and you don't go there to feel better, you go there to get better, right? And that's what you're getting ready to unleash into the market.
And nobody does it better than the Marine Corps. Sorry, guys. And yours is 8 weeks, ours is 12.
That's
you said 10 to 12. It's actually 8.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's because I thought they scored lower on their ASVAB.
Right. Which is probably true. Which is probably true. That's fine.
I figured there's too many big words to be used. Give them a few extra weeks to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, this is totally off subject. My nephew just finished day 1 and 2 of Buds. He's on his 3rd day, but he recently graduated boot camp. Called me 4 times. I'm like, man, how are you calling me?
Yeah.
He's like, cell phone. I'm like,
wow.
How do you have a cell phone?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, yeah, they give it to us every few. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, that didn't exist during our generation. Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, cell phones didn't, but they didn't let us use the phone. They gave you 1 call. I'm okay.
Yeah, it was like jail.
I arrived. Yeah, I'll see you in 8 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever it is.
He called you 4 times at basic?
Oh, yeah.
At Buds.
Oh, man. Well, listen.
No, at basic.
Oh, basic. Oh, basic training.
Yes. Buds, they have cell phones. At the end of the day, but in basic training, they now get almost unlimited calls home.
I didn't have cell phones when I was...
But even access to a phone. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think I could have. I don't think I would have wanted to call anybody either, right? But look, the times are changing. The industry's changing. We're getting guys like this that are emerging into the industry. There's people like us that fell into it on accident.
Yeah.
And now you have all these people that are actively and proactively listening to podcasts like this. I mean, there's so many. I'd say there's 2 to 3 really great podcasts in this industry that I find a lot of value in, that I listen to a lot. Mm-hmm. And but this is one I try to make different, right? I try to make. I mean, those ones are great for a lot of different things. We're not trying to be the same as them. We're trying to be different. And this one is, I want people that are listening to realize, like, hey, if you don't know what to do with your kids, take a number. Yeah. I got 3 in college, and I'm parking them there until I could figure out how to get them to transition into this industry. As long as they learn the construct of finance and business along the way, they'll learn this industry from the inside out like any other language. If I were to parachute them if I took them to Portugal and left them in the jungle for a month, they'd walk out of that jungle speaking perfect Portuguese, because they'll learn through survival, through immersion training, and through need. And for us, we're in a huge need. This industry is in survival mode, and we need to recruit more talent, we need to train more talent, and we need to be able to retain it so we don't lose it to adjacent markets.
And if you're building a data center in Portugal and you take the classes based on a standard, that standard applies in Portugal.
That's right. That global is what is the requirement.
It's a language.
For them. Yeah. And look, whatever EPI is, it's going to have to evolve with us. You know that. And I trust that you will be our advocate with them behind the scenes to make sure that we change the way that we educate and evolve the workforce. I think that they were way ahead of their curve. I think they were way ahead of their time. But I think that the time is emerging, and significance and relevance matters now. And there's a few other groups that have better marketing campaigns, but I don't give a shit about that. I care about more content, more value to our customers.
Dude, like how many subgroups of our industry are going through that same sort of realization right now, right? We have to collaborate and evolve. There's manufacturers collaborating with manufacturers that had holy wars against each other that are now collaborating out of necessity to get on point on these projects, right? So, I think you're right.
Well, listen, maybe this is a good time to bring this one back home. I didn't give you maybe the chance to unpackage OUs or anything you want people to...
given the limited time, I would say this. If you're in the industry, you're passionate about, making impact on the future labor force, maybe you have an expertise in something, contact Overwatch University. You can go to our website. We are Overwatch. Reach out through the contact list. And if you want to partner, make a difference alongside us, we'd love to bring you in as partners. Whether you're a hyperscaler, an operator, a vendor,
equipment manufacturer. I mean, you have all that laydown space. We're going to have people bring UPSs and RPPs and PDUs, and we talk
we'll have more load banks than the students can shake a stick at. I mean,
you'll have a real world lab.
It becomes a boot camp.
That's killer.
It is a boot camp, and boot camps sort of
it's
we're a wake up call to higher education. Mm-hmm. This is the same methodology. We want to partner with good companies to actually affect the labor force 1, 2, 10 years down the line.
And those are the toys that get people excited. Huh? You know, I mean, like bending conduit. I watched that for hours when I was like whoa, and it's all orchestrated and how this building works together. Yeah. That's what got me excited about it, you know, and how it all works.
I think that the more people understand how rock star and how punk rock this industry is and how it's blue sky. Like imagine having the opportunity in 2030 to join the automobile industry before there was even race and, you know, the automobile transformed all of society, right? But people that got into it at the time just fell into it on accident. They didn't realize it. That's us today. Like I've been in this industry since 2000 when I got out of the military, and I'm like, I had a front row seat. I mean, Amazon.com went live in 94. So I sat here and watched the whole worldwide Web 2.0, Internet of Things, cloud, and now we're sitting front row at AI, and now we have such a huge need and talent shortage that certifications will be the only way to validate that we have a transparent, predictable, and reliable labor force. And until there are companies that try to offer it today, but they're not really offering it for the same purpose that we are. I'm not trying to make money on EPI. I'm trying to make an impact on the industry through EPI. Yeah. Right, so I'll eat that cost, train my people, and send them out so they have what you did with your own team, an advantage of confidence because now they understand the language of the industry.
100%.
Don't you think?
Yep.
What else? Unpackage anything that I may have missed with you too, B-Dub.
No, I love this industry. I love the people in it. My company helps landowners, developers, anyone who's looking to get in the data center industry and be able to expedite that process through the ecosystem that we've developed over the years. AFCOM Chicago, we're doing events on collaboration. We're trying to bring people together in all different aspects, bringing IT to the infrastructure side, bringing the legal teams, bringing all the different components and show through case studies like how these projects work. You know, how that project in Hoffman Estates with Compass is working, how that's coming together. What do the legal teams do? How does this orchestrate it? How do you orchestrate gear? How does it, all those things? And my company helps orchestrate that too for folks that are looking to get into the space or develop a data center from dirt to commissioning.
Two things before I ask you to explain how they could reach you. Talk about your Escape the Cold Aisle.
Yeah. So we've been doing golf outings. So I brought golf outings to 7x24 way back in the day, and everyone said, no one's going to do that. I said, just let me do it. And we did it, and it became a thing. And during COVID, everyone golfed. No one did anything else but golf, right? And so I love golf. Golf's a great way. I have a barometer. If I can sit in a golf cart with you for 9 holes, then I can deal with you. If you pass that test. So, but Escape the Cold Aisle basically is golf outings the way we wanted to go to golf outings. We go set the standard high. We load up. We have industry come and
extreme networking.
Extreme networking. It's just putting people together. It's
when is it?
It's March 3rd and 4th coming up in 2026. Where is it? It's in Chandler, Arizona.
Do you have any time for? Are you accepting more sponsors?
Oh yeah. So we're going to launch everything coming up in a couple weeks.
Cool.
And we're going to launch it and save the date and get that going. Last year we sold out in a couple weeks, so we got to be careful how we do it. But
golf's one of the first things we sell out for DCT.
It's amazing.
All right. Well, listen. How do people reach you? Because you have Alphabet Soup as your last name. So
right. So they can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm there. I've
Bill Winsininski.
100,000 of my closest friends on LinkedIn. But then Bill Winsininski. CWC, it's cwc-tech.com. That's my website. LinkedIn's probably the best.
We'll make sure that Will gets this stuff and puts it on the thing, right? Yeah. Is that cool?
I just want to say one thing, dude. We started our businesses almost on the same day.
Sure.
And I've watched your evolution, And I just want to say I'm proud of what you guys accomplished, and just proud of seeing how you've changed a lot of people's lives for the better. And I'm just stoked to know you.
Man, I appreciate that. That's what we're trying to do here, right? Trying
Amen.
to change lives. Well, listen, thank you for everybody that's listened. If you're a parent and you're not sure what you're going to do with your kids, take a number, right? But at least get them started. Have a conversation about data centers. Maybe have them listen to part of this podcast. Mike's going to do a podcast with me where we just focus nothing but Overwatch University, because I do think it's a great place for people that don't want to go necessarily right into the trades yet, but they could become a craftsman of data centers by going to this valid, certification program.
100%.
They'll learn how to be strong leaders,
Yeah.
and they'll learn how to be subject matter experts. And then when they're done with that, then they can have a really healthy career in an industry that the sky's the limit, right? This is an industry that does not put a limit on. It doesn't matter how many years you've been here. It doesn't matter how much you know. It only matters how hard you can work. And this industry rewards those that work hard. Do you agree?
I agree.
Well, thank you for getting on a plane in Chicago and coming to hang with us in Austin.
Love it.
And thanks for joining the revolution. And Mike, thanks for sitting with me and unpackaging some of your stuff, because there's a lot of things we need to go through. Is there anything else you want to mention?
No, fellas, I appreciate your time, Bill.
Yeah,
B-Dub,
likewise.
thank you as well.
Very much.
Thanks, brother.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, man.
Cheers.